Hey guys, so a lot of people have asked me for a save of the self-expanding factory to play with. So I'll post that in a link in the description. You can download it and play around with it. So I figured I'd make a little video explaining some of the things you can tinker with if you want to. There's going to be some commands you can use if you want to speed up the robots, to accelerate things. You can also use game.speed to make things move a little faster. Another useful command here is chart all. So if you call chart all, it'll basically reveal the whole map, which is really useful when the base gets really big and you don't want to travel all around to try to find where the scout is doing stuff. So without further ado, let's skip forward to where the factory is a bit more developed. Alright, so the first thing to note is the new system for figuring out which stations to draw from. So here we've got the inventory of the depot. We've got lots of copper, 0 iron, and a lot of coal and a lot of stone. So we take these values and convert them into the I, S, L, and R signals for each resource. And this gets passed along the red wire to every single station. Each station then figures out its own priority based on whether we want that resource or not. Here we've got iron, so we take the inventory, we multiply it by these 4 values coming from the depot, and that calculates a priority output. So in this case, we've got iron, we want iron, so we get an output of 20 million priority. In this case, you've got a mine with mixed copper and iron, but it's almost all copper. So we don't want to pull from the station because we already have a massive surplus of copper. So what we do here, we've got some contribution, 56 million, from the iron that we want here. But the copper we really don't want to overflow our depot. So that contributes negative 500 million to the priority. Add them up, we get a massively negative number, and so that means that this station is completely disabled and won't be visited until we want to get both copper and iron, or at least when we don't have a massive surplus of copper already at our station, as you can see here. I added a couple of features to this supply area. So now every supply line, every set of assemblers devoted to an item, has a little light that indicates whether that resource is currently low and should be produced. So it looks like right now we probably had a recent supply run, so we're producing almost everything here. Or here you can see the desired surplus. This is how much we want to keep in the chests at this station. And this is our current surplus. And here you see the difference. So you can see we're running negative 2.6 thousand behind in rails. But that's not a big problem because our surplus is still 2.3 thousand, just means that we're producing them a bit slower than they've been consumed recently. But we still got that 2.3 thousand buffer before it actually starts worrying the scout, and the scout has to start waiting for resources. You can see we're mostly producing belts and loading them onto the train here. So these numbers in the desired surplus combinators give us a upper bound on how much we want to have extra material available, but the actual amount that we want to pull off is defined by these combinators here. So for instance, let's say a miner column, one strip of miners, takes this many resources. So then we define that if our scout ever falls below having enough for 5 miner columns, then it'll call in the supply train. That's the minimum resources on the right side here. On the other side are the desired resources. So when the supply train arrives, it'll try to pull off enough resources for 10 miner columns. So it has a bit of buffer room and doesn't have to call the supply train after every movement. Obviously, the bigger the number of desired resources, the more inventory it has to carry from one place to another. But it also means it has to be visited by the supply train less frequently. So one last thing, you can play with this combinator field. I'm probably going to make a poster video about how the Factorio basic system works. so you don't necessarily have to try to reverse engineer it. But a couple fun things to look at. There's always lights that indicate where the code is executing. So right now you can see we're in this loop here where we're trying to find where to place miners. There's 11 miners. We went through it 11 times. And so now we've gone through. We're waiting for the robots to become free. And now we're over here trying to do the next step. We built the cell. We're waiting for the robots to be free again before we start deconstructing stuff. Over here is the combinator that'll turn off movement. So if you disable this, you can use the F key if you have push buttons installed. That'll cause this whole system to stop next time it gets to this area. So once it finishes a step, it'll stop unless the free run combinator is turned on. And you can also enable specific breakpoints. So once the code reaches this point, it'll stop, and you can use the step button to advance it to the next breakpoint, or line by line if you turn off free run. So what else? Here you've got the power detector, and here you've got the main blueprint book that runs the whole factory. You've got the basic cell arrangements, and you've got a whole lot of individual blueprints for the different configurations of miners. So you can play with those too. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for all you guys interested in this project, and I'll post whenever there's new updates.